My name is Fatih Birol. I am the Chief Economist of the International Energy Agency in Paris. Oil supply and demand can be tightened substantially in the next years to come, and the conventional oil supplies may peak around 2020 if we do not discover new oil fields, and if the oil demand grows as strongly as it has been in the past. And if we don't do anything, if we just sit back and watch the situation, it means if we don't slow down the oil demand growth, if we don't invest to find new oil fields, we may see much higher prices than we have seen in the past. And this could have very bad implications for the global economy, for all the countries in the world, major consuming countries such as the US, China, or European countries, but as well as for the producing countries, because oil is one of the major revenue generators. So what we have to do is, on one hand, we have to invest to find new oil fields. Second, perhaps much more importantly, is to slow down the oil demand growth. And we can slow the oil demand growth finding solution to our transportation sector problems. We have to find cars, we have to use cars much more efficiently. We have to look at the alternative technologies of cars, such as the biofuels, or even more importantly, electric cars. Oil sources are there, as you said, is till 2020 and so on. But one day, if not 2030, 2040, one day we will run out of oil. This is a matter of time. So what we have to do is we have to prepare ourselves for that day, and we have to leave oil before oil leaves us. I think, first of all, our first task is to postpone the day of a peak. And to do that, we have to invest in oil fields, and we have plenty of oil, mainly in the OPEC countries in Middle East. There is plenty of oil there. We have to see that investment is done in order to explore new oil fields and develop the existing fields. Second, industry and business need to look at the alternative option in the transportation sector. Today, more than 95% of the growth in oil demand comes from the transportation sector, namely cars, trucks, and jets. So we have to find a way, industry has to find a way, together with the governments, to find new modes, new modalities for transportation. This is our first task, to postpone the peak. And then if we are well prepared for the day that the global oil production goes down, we can find solutions to the significant economic challenges we may face. Copenhagen, on one hand, it provided some signals, such as the numerous number of important countries in the world agreed that we should limit the temperature increase globally about 2 degrees. This was a positive outcome. But as a person who works on energy sector, I was disappointed that there was not a clear signal coming from Copenhagen in order to transform the energy sector. Energy sector is responsible more than 2/3 of the emissions which lead to climate change. So if we want to find a solution to climate change, this should go through transforming the energy sector. And in order to transform the energy sector, we needed a strong, clear signal from Copenhagen. And for me, this has been that there was a global agreement, legally binding global agreement for major countries of the world to limit their emissions in the year 2020. And this would have given a strong signal to energy sector to make investments on a much more sustainable manner rather than a business as usual manner. I think this is an opportunity which is missed, but we can still make it up if we have an agreement in Cancun in Mexico this year. I think we should be realistic. Today, we are coming to the end of February 2010. We do not have the momentum for a transformation in the energy sector to have the things much more sustainable that we had before Copenhagen. The momentum is unfortunately not as strong as before Copenhagen. Because of several reasons, from the failure of the Copenhagen, at least partial failure of Copenhagen meeting, and perhaps some of the stronger feelings about the skepticism whether or there's a climate change. But I think the realities of life are there. Namely, the climate change is a fact, and everybody who believes that we have to fight against climate change needs to do something. And as International Energy Agency, we think climate change is one of the two major strategic problems that we are facing today. Second one is energy security. And when we look at the future, we think that most of the measures we have to take in order to fight against climate change helps to address the energy security as well, such as more renewable energy, more efficiency, more advanced technologies, and more nuclear power. So we, as the International Energy Agency, the leading energy organization in the world, we will be still pushing the button that the sustainability efforts are going up, will be strong, and we hope to push all the buttons in order to have a successful outcome in Cancun this year. I think carbon markets up to now did not provide a clear achievement. The reason here being that the carbon markets are rather small, carbon prices are rather low, and we do not have a bigger size of a market. I would have liked to see, for example, from Copenhagen, that there is at least within the rich countries, OECD countries, namely United States, Canada, European countries, and Japan, there was a cap and trade system, and there was a carbon price coming from there that would provide a substantial signal to the energy investors, to the industry, that they will take into consideration the climate change in terms of their investment. Unfortunately, this didn't take place. I think if there is an agreement in Mexico City, or in Cancun, in other words, we should be able to transform our energy sector. We have made a study at the IEA, our flagship publication, World Energy Outlook, and what we have found out that if we want to see a trajectory which is in line with the global leaders' agreement, namely limiting the temperature degrees, 2 degrees Celsius, there should be a major transformation in the energy sector, and renewable energies, clean energies, should be the engine of that transformation. For example, let's take Europe or United States. In order to come to that trajectory, sustainable energy trajectory, in Europe, out of €100 investment we will make for the power generation, for the industry, €71 need to go to the investment related to renewable energies. In the United States, this is about from $100, $62 have to go to the renewable energy investments. And therefore, my answer is yes. I think clean energies, especially renewable energy, energy efficiency, can be an area to make money for the industry if the governments provide the right framework conditions. I think both, but the sequence is the following. If the industry believes that the new technologies bring money, they will invest. Technology, the industry will not invest because they have good hearts or bad hearts. If they have good intentions or bad intentions. Industry always invests with the primary objective of making money. So therefore, if the governments provide the right framework for the sustainable investments, clean investments, industry will go there and with the understanding of making money, and this would give an impetus to technology. So the role for the governments here is to make the clean energy technologies attractive for the industry, so that industry believes that they can make money out of clean energy technologies. I think nuclear power is one of the key sustainable options. I would say renewables will need to play a key role. More efficiency using our refrigerators, our light bulbs, our TV sets more efficiently is another one. But nuclear energy itself provides many important advantages options. What are they? First of all, nuclear energy provides bulk electricity without interruption at cheap prices. Second, nuclear energy doesn't emit carbon dioxide emissions. And third, when a country builds nuclear industry in its country, in its mainland, they do not need to import energy from other countries, so it is also good for the energy security. So I believe nuclear energy is one of the key options to come to a sustainable energy path. I think there are some businesses who do go for sustainable energies, but I do not think that the sustainable energy investments became mainstream yet. And the reason here is that some of the energy technologies are still very expensive, and they do not provide the necessary profits for the industry to go and invest. If there is, for example, a carbon price which would provide incentives for the clean energy technologies, this would be a very good point for the industry to go and invest in clean energy technologies. In the absence of a carbon price, in the absence of a regulation, unfortunately, in many cases, conventional energy sources, from a cost point of view, are more attractive for the energy industry. My appeal is therefore to put a price on carbon in order to punish the extensive use of fossil fuels and provide incentive for the clean energy technologies. The incentive for them is we know that the world is facing a climate change problem. And we are also realistic, and we know that currently we don't have a global agreement, global mechanism. But one day, earlier or later, we will have a global agreement, and this will provide a major impetus for the clean energy technologies. We already see it in some countries. And if the businesses cannot see that this trend is coming, when they jump on the train, it may be rather too late. So I think they should be alerted now that sooner or later, clean energy technologies will take the lead, and they will prepare their business plans accordingly. I think we need both of them. But for me, the most important one is a global agreement is needed worldwide. Everybody has to play its role. Rich countries, such as the US, such as the European countries, such as the Japan, but also some major countries, such as China, should take place in this game. When we look at our projections, I can tell you that between now and 2030, almost half of the CO2 emissions growth will come from China. You cannot convince a local community in the United States to do this or that if China is not a part of the solution. So therefore, I believe, first of all, that there should be a global agreement that all the countries playing the game. And secondly, I believe in each country, as a result of this global agreement, there should be rules and regulations which are pushing the clean energy technologies, which are pushing using energy more efficiently. But at the same time, there should be some economic incentives for the citizens, the communities, to go and make their decisions for the sustainable energy choices. When a person from a community goes and buys a car, he or she should have the incentive, financial incentive, to buy a more efficient, more environment-friendly car. This shouldn't be only left to the intention of the people. We cannot only rely the ethics or the moral of the people. I believe there should be some financial incentives to make the right choice, to make them to buy the right car, or not to buy a car, but using public transport systems. I believe that these financial incentives are important. I think that if there is a sustainable energy trajectory in the next years to come, this will give an additional or a new impetus to the economic growth. What I was talking about, clean energy technologies, such as the renewables, such as more efficiently, or electric cars. Electric cars, if they start to have a mass production, it will open a lot of new employment opportunities in developing countries. So according to our projections, again, if we want to go to a 2 degrees trajectory in 2030, every second car sold in the world needs to be an electric car. And today, only 1 car out of 100 cars sold are so-called advanced car technologies. But there is the other side of the coin. If we do not go in a sustainable energy pattern, the climate change effects may, in the long term, well, have negative implications on the economic growth, which is bad news for everybody, but more importantly, bad news for many developing countries' citizens. I think governments have at least 2 major roles to play in order to give the right signals to its citizens and communities. One, through regulations, putting the right laws, putting the right standards of how we use energy. And through these laws and regulations and standards, push the people to use energy more efficiently and in a more cleaner way. The second one, again, very important for me, I believe that the governments should provide incentive for the citizens who are using energy more efficiently and making much more use of renewable energy. Without these financial incentives, I do not think that the citizens or the communities will change their minds from one day to another by reading books or looking at the television programs or others. I believe that there is a need for financial incentives for the people to make the right choices. I think, first of all, we all have to recognize that in the absence of a moving together, developing and developed countries, we have no chance whatsoever to address the climate change. This is not an issue of developed countries only. I can tell you, as somebody who is responsible for the developed countries' energy issues, that the developed countries have a major historical responsibility that we have this problem. Therefore, they should be the ones who have the bulk of the burden on their shoulders. But looking at the future, as I said before, China alone will be responsible more than 50% of the growth in the carbon dioxide emissions. So if China doesn't move, and the other developing countries, of course, together with the developed countries, whatever agreement we have, whatever action we take in the developed countries have no chance whatsoever to be successful. So I believe a successful outcome goes through a strong cooperation between developed and developing countries, but of course responsibilities should be different. Again, bulk of the burden needs to be on the shoulders of the developed rich countries, as they have historical responsibilities in the concentration of carbon in the atmosphere. I always thought that using more efficient energy sources, pushing the clean energy technologies such as renewable energies are important. I have been thinking that all the time and try to reflect this in my work here at the IEA. But I also took some personal decisions, which may be a bit unusual for the people who are watching this in the United States, I have refused to buy a car for the reasons of sustainability, and I am 51, and since today I have never bought a car, because I believe using cars is one of the main reasons that we pollute the world, increases CO2 emissions, and this is also an issue for oil security. In fact, we are making this outlook since a few years, and at least in the last 4 or 5 years, we tried to make it clear to everybody that the sustainability is a key issue, and business as usual, not changing the current energy policies, is not an option anymore. The current policies would lead us to a catastrophic result in terms of oil supply, in terms of climate change, and third one that I didn't mention up to now, the effect of the energy and poverty. Namely, today, 1.5 billion people, it means 20% of the global population, they have no access to electricity. And it is not a minor issue. In sub-Saharan Africa, in South Asia, they cannot use electricity as they do not have it. A mother cannot, or a father, cannot keep the medication for his or her child in the refrigerator, and this is a major problem. So looking at these three issues, we have been highlighting this in the last 3-4 years, and I have felt from time to time frustrated that the governments did not get the message strong enough. But in the last one year or two, I have seen that we see some impact, and some governments are changing their policies. These governments, both in the developed countries and in developing countries, which makes me a bit more hopeful than in the past. I think my biggest fear is having another global war, which might have been a result of sharing the primary commodities in the world. I would like to see a world which is much more fair than today, less geopolitical tensions, and more importantly, using much more cleaner energy in a sustainable way, and that in that world we would have solved our climate change problem.